Chapter 17. We must get them out. When I turned into Gheorghe Utsa, I stopped running. It was difficult to see where I was going. The street was full of smoke, like a thick grey cloud everywhere. I couldn't see anything, and the smell of gas was terrible. Perhaps a gas pipe in one of the old buildings had broken, and that had started the explosion. I took my handkerchief out and put it across my mouth and nose, and walked along the street. There was also the loud noise of car alarms ringing, started by the explosion. I found I was walking on glass from all the broken windows. People were already trying to knock out the other pieces of glass from their windows, and some had started to put paper and plastic over them to keep their flats warm. I knew I had got to Zholt's bar, because there was a small crowd of people standing around it. I looked down. There was nothing left. I couldn't see the steps going down, the windows, or even the walls. There was just a lot of broken stones. I looked and looked, my mind completely empty. Suddenly, I understood what had happened. "My wife!" I shouted in Hungarian. "My wife and daughter are in there! We must get them out! Help me!" People looked at me. "Come on!" I said, looking at the people standing around. "We must get them out!" I started to give orders. I made everybody stand in a line and told them to pass along the stones from the destroyed building and put them in the street. Then I got to work, picking up the broken pieces of wood and stone. The people soon got the idea, and we worked as a good team. I was very pleased to see other neighbours coming and joining in on the other side of what had been the front of the bar. Surprisingly soon, I was down to where the doorway had been. At that moment, I heard the noise of police cars, fire engines, and ambulances coming closer, and the people I was working with stopped helping me. "What's the matter?" I shouted. "We must get my wife and—" "Come on out, sir, please," said a voice. I looked up. In the grey light, the person who had spoken looked very big and black above me. "But my wife and my daughter are in here!" I shouted. "We must get them out!" And I threw the pieces of wood and stone that I had in my hands up into the street, and turned to get some more from the destroyed doorway. But then strong hands got hold of me and pulled me up into the street. "Just come out of the way, sir," said the voice. "But my wife—" "I understand, sir," said the voice, which I now realized came from a fireman. "But it's too dangerous for you to go in there. Leave it to us. The place is full of gas. Can't you smell it?" I could smell it now I had stopped, and I could feel it inside my body. The fireman let me go, and I fell down onto the street and started crying. I was lifted up by more hands, and soon I was lying in the back of an ambulance parked a few meters down the street. I was coughing a lot, so a nurse put something over my face to help me breathe. I started to feel better and tried to sit up. "Just lie down, please," said the nurse. "You need to rest for a while." "But my wife and daughter were in that cellar," I said. "I have to find them." "There's nothing you can do now, sir," said the voice in a very gentle way. "Just rest." I must have slept for a few minutes. When I woke, I sat up. Then I stood up and stepped out into the street. The ambulance men were standing outside. "Are you feeling any better, sir?" one of them asked. "Yes, much better, thanks," I replied. "Is there any news?" "Not yet, sir," said another ambulanceman. I pushed my way through the crowd, which was much bigger now. The air was clearer too, but the street was full of blue lights. The firemen had put some lights in front of Jolt's bar, so that they could see what they were doing, and the police were keeping people away. I called to one of the policemen and explained that I was the husband of someone who had been in the cellar, and he took me over to a police van on the other side of the street. "Good evening, sir," said a young policeman sitting inside the van. "Take a seat." I sat down opposite him. "Is there any news yet?" I asked him. "Not yet, I'm afraid, sir," he said, looking serious. "Could I ask you for some information, please?" And for the next 5 minutes, I gave him facts and dates about myself, Andrea, and Cotti, which he wrote down on many different pieces of paper. He also asked me what I knew about the bar and the people who worked there, and who might have been inside when the explosion happened. "What shall I do now?" I asked, feeling very unsure of myself. "Well, sir," he replied, "you live nearby, so why don't you go home and wait there? I've got your telephone number, and I'll call you as soon as we have any news." "Okay," I said. "Thanks." I got out of the van and pushed back through the crowd, leaving the lights and the noise behind me. I felt terrible. Deep inside, I didn't believe that anybody in that cellar could have lived through the explosion. The bar was completely destroyed. It was impossible for Andrea and Cotti to be alive. I then started thinking about how stupid I'd been. Why hadn't I told Andrea what I'd seen in my dreams, and what I'd found out from Mrs. Fisher? I couldn't believe I had killed my own wife and child. And all because I was too interested in the doppelganger story to think carefully about the two people I loved most in the world. Too interested in the doppelganger story to think about what my doppelganger wanted to tell me. How stupid I'd been. The bar had been destroyed. My wife and child had been destroyed. And my life was now destroyed. I would never be happy again.